Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today I actually wanted to kind of react to like a clip that I seen online about a podcast, if you want to call it a podcast, or a YouTube show called Tonight Show. There was if you're not familiar with what they do, is they do like big audience speaking points, similar topics of just relationship stuff and whatnot, a little bit of really focus on some relationship stuff. I'm not going to say self-help, but really just relationship stuff. And I've come across it a couple of times before into the past. And it's funny because I seen someone ask a question, and later I'm going to do a separate video just kind of talking about the show in general and just kind of how it relates to where we're at in society in general, and something that you kind of see as a staple with that show, along with just like what that means in terms of society. But just piggybacking on what this like one of the guests had said, because a lot of times you have these people in the audience and they step up and they ask these questions to the cast, and there's a panel on stage of people host, and they answer certain questions and give their input. So excuse me, sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So one of the questions that was asked was, and I had it written down here, of a lady had asked, when is the right time to ask the man what they are? Meaning like, what's their status? As far as if they're serious, if they're not, this and that. And it was interesting to me because not that the question was unique or anything of that sort, but just the dynamic of that. You have people who are even, and this person looked like they could have been in their late 30s, maybe mid 40s, somewhere in that range. I can't really tell, get the exact beat on where their age was, but they were definitely up there. They were nothing close to being young adults. They were definitely in the older space. And it's kind of like the fact that you are in a place where you got to even ask these questions is a reflection of, and if any of you guys are in the same space, and then this would be definitely talking to you guys, and this could apply to men or women, but if you are in a space where you got to ask that at this stage of the game, at this age, especially if you got a couple of months on your belt, now obviously you're not going to ask that to somebody 2 weeks of you talking to them, maybe not even a month, whatever, because I do agree that as you get older, you need more time in between the time that you first meet them to actually get to know them, to actually make it make sense. And the reason why I say that is because, as you get older, you're not trying to play the just in and out game. You're trying to have a bit more of a sense of, okay, like this is real. So I don't want it to be a thing where it's just, okay, casual, 2 weeks, I don't know what it is, now it's serious, and then now we're out. So you might take a little bit more time to make sure that it is solid. But within that scope, say if it's like 6 months under the belt to a year, the fact that you feel like you have to even like get to that stage where, not to say you shouldn't have the communication, you shouldn't be asking, but the fact that you go on a panel, you're asking someone when's the right time, it's a reflection of that. You're scared to make note of that because you think you're going to lose them. If you think you're going to lose them, that means they're not the right person for you anyway. Because if it was someone who you didn't have that fear to lose, you would have asked anyway, but you probably wouldn't even want to ask with that person because it would be someone you don't care to lose. It's always the people we want the most that we're afraid to ask those questions. But the issue is often the people we're afraid to lose are the ones who are often no good for us in the first place. And it was just interesting for me to see that take on someone asking that kind of question, especially at that age, still within that field, within that game space. Anybody who's in this kind of place at that age shows you that your way of dating, your way of approaching relationships is juvenile. And I don't mean that to say as an insult, but it's like you got to have some self-reflection and realize that, like I said, there's nothing wrong with asking the question to somebody, but the fact that you went on a panel to ask somebody when is the right time. So it's not so much the question, but the fact that you wanted to ask people when's the right time, because in your mind you wanted to ask it, but you were afraid to ask it because you thought you were going to lose the person. That in itself is a juvenile mindset or approach towards relationships, because it shows that you are in a space where you're dating people that right off the bat you think you can't keep them, or you're more excited with them and they're not excited with you at all, and it's not an even kind of situation. And so you're still thinking like that. That in itself is a juvenile experience. You shouldn't be thinking like that. Either that person is for you or they're not, and you can ask it right away. And if they're not, or if they're not ready for something serious, you shouldn't be afraid to let them go. If you're afraid to let someone go at that age, late 30s, early 40s, you're in a juvenile state of dating. So it's important just to kind of make knowledge of that and be aware. And I think a lot of people are in that state, but a lot of people in terms of a juvenile state of relationships, in terms of the way they receive or process the dating world or whatever case is the relationship world. But I think that that is something where a lot of people really need to self-reflect and realize like, okay, like that is the situation. That is the situation that I am in, and kind of really take a time to maybe even leave the dating world and get to a space where you don't feel that way. You aren't chasing the people that don't like you, because what ends up happening for a lot of people they don't realize is a lot of people are dating, especially in now times, and not to, this is not about, viewing things one way or another, but I could definitely say when it comes to in bigger cities, and I can't necessarily speak this for smaller towns, but in bigger cities, a lot of the women are dating people outside of their attractive realm. And so what's happening is those type of guys are dating multiple women. And the reason why you know that they're out of the bounds of a particular woman that they're dating is because they are with multiple women. If they're with a woman who's at a caliber that makes them feel like I need that person so much and they're afraid to lose that, they won't jeopardize it with anybody else. That's a key point to make note of. So if that person is that guy's not afraid to lose you, you're not at his caliber. If you feel you're like overly chasing them, you're trying to satisfy them, and you're scared to bring up topics like what are we because you think you're going to lose them, they're out of your caliber. And a lot of times people aren't honest with themselves about that, but that's kind of taking place a lot nowadays. Used to back in the days, but now so more so, even more now in the times, especially with social media and whatnot. So where that kind of leaves us in is in a space where if you're still doing that in your late 30s and up, going after people that make you feel insecure about your decisions with them or locking them down, you haven't learned that where your space falls in. You're still doing juvenile relationship methods or tactics or whatever you want to label it as. And that is a problem. Something you need to reflect on yourself. Very important. But anyway, you guys, like I said, I just wanted to kind of comment on that because I just thought it was interesting with a deeper dive into that question that they had spoke on that. I am going to follow up with another video just talking about, like I said, that space in general, because I really do feel that I got a lot of thoughts when it comes to that show. I've seen a couple of clips before, and I got a lot of thoughts, not particularly on the show, but just the group of people that you see go to it and the reflection of what that means in terms of society in the dating world in general. As always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.